Welcome back to Under Baobab Skies. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the heart of the Sahara, where merciless beauty and silent dangers intertwine beneath an endless sky. As the pale moon rises, casting its ethereal glow across the landscape, the desert reveals itself not as an empty void, but as a living, breathing entity. Listen closely, and you'll hear the whispers of the Sahara, the soft hiss of wind sculpting dunes into ever-changing forms, the rhythmic tinkling of camel bells swaying in the night, and the hushed prayers of traders beseeching the heavens for safe passage to the next dawn. The Sahara's golden seas stretch beyond the limits of human sight, a vast expanse where dunes rise and fall like the chests of slumbering giants. By day, the sun reigns supreme, its fierce heat pressing down upon the land with an almost tangible weight. As darkness falls, the cold creeps in like a stealthy thief, wrapping the world in a blanket of silver frost that glitters beneath the stars. Somewhere in this ocean of sand, a line of camels winds its way between distant oases, their steady footfalls barely audible against the whisper of the wind. These beasts of burden carry more than just salt, gold, and ivory. They bear the weight of stories, traditions, and dreams across the very spine of Africa. Alongside them walk the caravan guards, their feet blistered and raw from days spent traversing the scorching ground. Their eyes, ever vigilant, scan every horizon for signs of danger, while their hearts carry the unspoken knowledge that each step deeper into the desert's embrace could be their last. The Sahara has never been a forgiving mistress. She tests the mettle of all who dare to cross her domain. Every heartbeat, every muscle, every precious drop of water is challenged by her relentless nature. Yet, in this harsh crucible, a strange alchemy occurs. The desert binds its travelers together in ways that defy explanation. Through shared silence, through collective hardship, and through the peculiar companionship that blooms when survival depends on the strength of those around you. The elders speak of the Sahara's indifference, saying she does not kill out of malice, but out of a profound detachment from the fleeting lives that cross her dunes. To the ever-shifting sands, we are no more than shadows passing through, here for a moment, gone in the blink of an eye. Let us pause here for a moment, as the fire crackles softly and we rest beneath a canopy of stars so vast it threatens to swallow us whole. Feel the cool night air on your skin, smell the lingering scent of smoke and spices, and listen to the distant call of a nocturnal bird echoing across the dunes. Tonight, we will walk in the footsteps of those intrepid guards, feeling the bite of the desert wind against our teeth and the reassuring weight of a spear in our hands. Our journey will carry us across vast distances, both physical and spiritual. We will meet kings whose power rivals that of the sun itself, and warriors whose legends are whispered around campfires for generations. Our path will lead us to forgotten cities, half buried by the sands of time, their crumbling walls holding secrets untold. We will dine in opulent courts where gold cups flash in the flickering lamplight, and the air is heavy with the scent of exotic perfumes. But before we can taste the sweetness of such wonders, we must first overcome the greatest challenge of all, the road itself. For it is in the journey, not the destination, that the true spirit of the Sahara reveals itself. It is in the endless miles of sun-baked earth, in the mirages that dance on the horizon, and in the nights spent huddled against the cold, that we will find the essence of this timeless land. As we prepare to set forth, remember that the desert does not suffer fools or the unprepared. Every step must be measured, every decision weighed against the harsh realities of this unforgiving landscape. The Sahara demands respect, and those who fail to give it often pay the ultimate price. You stand now at the threshold of an adventure unlike any other. The path ahead is fraught with danger, but it also holds the promise of unimaginable beauty and discovery. With each breath, you draw in the very essence of the desert, ancient, mysterious, and alive with possibilities. You are now under baobab skies, and as the first rays of dawn begin to paint the eastern horizon in shades of gold and crimson, our story begins. By the end of this segment, you will understand why guarding a caravan across the Sahara was less a job and more a trial by fire. Or perhaps, more accurately, a trial by sand. The day began long before the first hint of dawn. The air was cold, biting against the skin, and every breath tasted of dry dust. Guards woke to the muted grunts of camels shifting in the dark, their huge bodies kneeling on the sand like strange ships moored in a silent harbor. The smell of camel sweat, leather harnesses, and smoldering embers from the night's fire clung to the air. There was no time for leisure. The desert gave you no such luxury. As the stars began to fade, a Tuareg caravan guard wrapped his indigo tagelmust tightly round his face, shielding against the pre-dawned cold. Behind him, camels knelt patiently, their silhouettes stark against the star-filled sky. This was the moment of preparation, of steeling oneself for the grueling day ahead. Each guard carried more than just a weapon. There was the water skin, carefully slung across the shoulder, its contents more precious than gold. A pouch of dried dates or millet cakes might serve as the day's only food. And then there was the spear, or curved sword, its weight both a comfort and a reminder that men were not the only danger in the Sahara. Bandits often lurked near the edges of known routes, waiting for caravans heavy with salt slabs or gold dust. The march itself was a kind of slow torture. The ground shifted under every step, and the rising sun quickly turned the sand into a hot metal plate. Guards walked in silence, conserving breath, their robes pulled tight to shield against the glare. Each dune crested revealed another endless line of dunes beyond. The horizon seemed to mock them, always retreating, never growing closer. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire crackles softly, and we rest beneath the stars. As we sit here in the cool night air, imagine the worst days of the journey. The days when sandstorms struck. One moment, the horizon lay flat and calm. The next, a yellow-brown wall would rise in the distance, growing until it blotted out the sky. The wind howled like 1,000 demons, flinging grains of sand into every fold of cloth, every crevice of skin. Guards learned to crouch low, covering their faces and praying their camels did not panic. In such storms, you could lose the man walking only a few paces ahead. Sometimes you found him again. Sometimes you didn't. Picture it now. A roaring sandstorm swallowing a caravan whole. Guards crouched low, their robes whipping violently in the wind. Camels, barely visible through the swirling dust, bellow in fear and confusion. The world becomes a maelstrom of sand and wind, where sight and sound lose all meaning. In these moments, the desert truly shows its power, reminding every traveler of their insignificance. But perhaps the deepest enemy of all was thirst. Water skins emptied faster than you wanted to admit, and the mirages played cruel tricks. You'd see shimmering lakes on the horizon, silver blue and promising, only for them to vanish into hot air. A man could go mad chasing such visions. Guards knew the routes between wells and oases by heart, but even then the desert sometimes claimed them. A collapsed well, a dried-up pool, a wrong turn in the shifting sands. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning the very air into an oven. Sweat evaporated almost instantly, leaving behind a crust of salt on skin and clothing. Lips cracked and bled. Tongues swelled in parched mouths. The temptation to take just one more sip to drain the water skin dry was constant. But experienced guards knew better. They rationed carefully, each drop a lifeline stretching between oases. At night, the world changed. The cold set in sharp and sudden, and the sky exploded into a canopy of stars so bright it felt as though you could reach up and pluck them. Fires were lit in shallow pits to hide their glow from distant eyes. Guards took turns keeping watch, their ears tuned for the soft pad of footsteps, human or otherwise. Hyenas roamed the edges of the camp, and there were tales of lions trailing caravans for days, waiting for a straggler. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire crackles softly, and we rest beneath the stars. As we sit in this moment of respite, consider the weight of responsibility these guards carried. Their vigilance was all that stood between the caravan and disaster. Every shadow could hide a threat, every sound a potential warning. Sleep, when it came, was light and fitful. Dreams were filled with the endless expanse of sand, the rhythmic sway of camel gait, the constant thrum of danger. The night brought its own challenges. The cold seeped into bones, making joints ache and muscles stiffen. Dew collected on blankets and robes, a cruel mockery of the water so desperately needed during the day. And always there was the knowledge that with dawn, the cycle would begin anew. Another day of blistering heat, of thirst, of constant weariness. But the night also brought moments of beauty. The desert sky, unpolluted by artificial light, revealed a tapestry of stars beyond imagining. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens like a river of light. Shooting stars streaked by, each one a fleeting wish. In these moments, guards might feel a sense of awe, a connection to something greater than themselves. And yet, despite the hardship, there was a strange pride in the work. Guards were the lifeline of the trans-Saharan trade. Without them, the gold of the south would never reach the markets of the north, and the salt of the desert would never reach the kingdoms that needed it. Their endurance was the invisible thread stitching together empires. But each step taken in the sand was a gamble, one where the stakes were your life. Imagine the night camp in the Sahara. Small, hidden fires flickering in the sand. Guards silhouetted against the starlit sky. Camels resting in the background. This was a moment of community, of shared stories and quiet camaraderie. Guards from different backgrounds found common ground in their shared experiences, in the universal language of survival. The caravan itself was a microcosm of the wider world. Merchants from distant lands, speaking a babel of languages, carried goods of every description. Ivory tusks and ostrich feathers from the south, textiles and metalwork from the north, and always salt. The white gold of the desert, worth its weight many times over in the lands beyond the Sahara. Guards learned to read the desert like a book. The subtle changes in sand color that hinted at hidden water. The way certain plants grew that indicated the proximity of an oasis. They became experts in the art of water divination, using forked sticks or pure instinct to locate underground springs. This knowledge was passed down from veteran to novice, an oral tradition as old as the trade routes themselves. But for all their skill, guards were still at the mercy of the desert. Sandstorms could erase familiar landmarks, leaving even the most experienced traveler disoriented. Mirages could lead the unwary astray, luring them off established routes and into the deadly emptiness of the deep desert. And always there was the risk of raiders, desperate men who saw the caravan as a prize to be taken by force. The life of a caravan guard was one of constant vigilance. Eyes scanned the horizon for dust clouds that might signal approaching riders. Ears strained for the telltale jingle of harness bells that didn't belong to their own animals. Even in the relative safety of an oasis, relaxation was a luxury few could afford. There were always preparations to be made, animals to be tended, routes to be planned. As we near the end of our journey through the life of a trans-Saharan caravan guard, consider the toll such an existence would take. The constant exposure to sun and wind aged a man before his time. Joints grew stiff from endless miles walked across shifting sands. Eyes weakened from the relentless glare. And always, there was the psychological strain, the knowledge that one mistake, one moment of inattention, could mean death not just for you, but for all those under your protection. Yet for many, the rewards outweighed the risks. There was a freedom to be found in the vastness of the desert, a sense of purpose in facing its challenges. The bonds formed between fellow guards were often stronger than family ties, and for those who survived, who guided their charges safely across the merciless expanse of the Sahara, there was a pride that no other profession could match. As the stars begin to fade and the first hint of dawn touches the eastern sky, our tale draws to a close. The guards rise, shaking sand from their robes, readying themselves for another day of heat and hardship and hidden danger. The camels groan as they're loaded. The merchants check their precious cargoes one last time, and then, with a word of command, the caravan moves out. A long line of men and beasts disappearing into the shimmering distance of the Sahara. This was the life of a caravan guard. A life of extremes, of danger and beauty, of crushing hardship and moments of transcendent wonder. It was a life that few could endure. But, for those who did, it was a calling like no other. In the endless sands of the Sahara, they found not just a profession, but a way of being, a test of everything they were. And in facing that test, day after grueling day, they became something more than mere men. They became the unsung heroes of one of history's greatest trade routes, the guardians of the desert's secrets and its treasures. As the first rays of dawn pierced the horizon, the caravan stirred to life. A serpentine line of camels and men preparing to venture into the heart of the unforgiving Sahara, the last oasis, a haven of life amidst the barren expanse, slowly receded behind them, its memory already fading like a mirage in the shimmering heat. The desert, vast and merciless, stretched before them, an ocean of sand that seemed to ripple and shift with each gust of wind. This was no mere journey across a barren land. It was a test of will, a battle against nature itself. The Sahara, in all its terrible beauty, was about to reveal its true face to these travelers. As the sun climbed higher, its rays beating down with increasing intensity, the caravan guards took their positions. These were not simple armed escorts, but the very lifeline of the expedition. Their eyes, sharp and vigilant, scanned the horizon ceaselessly, searching for threats both seen and unseen. In this realm of sand and sky, danger could come from any direction, at any moment. The camels' padded feet left soft impressions in the sand, each step a testament to their endurance. But even these marks of passage were fleeting. A single breath of wind could erase hours of progress, leaving even the most experienced guides disoriented in this featureless landscape. The guards knew this all too well, their senses heightened to every shift in the air, every whisper of the dunes. As the day wore on, the true nature of the desert revealed itself. The Sahara was not merely a place, it was a living, breathing entity that seemed determined to break the will of those who dared to cross it. The sun, once a welcome sight after the chill of night, now bore down without mercy. Metal became too hot to touch. Water evaporated almost as quickly as it could be drunk, and every breath felt like inhaling fire. The guards' task was relentless. Through the monotony of endless sand and sky, they had to remain alert, their spears at the ready, even as exhaustion clawed at their limbs. The dangers they faced were not always visible. Heatstroke could claim a man faster than any raider's blade, and the insidious effects of thirst could turn the most steadfast companions into desperate enemies. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the dunes, the caravan prepared for the night ahead. The temperature drop was sudden and severe, a cruel joke after the day's scorching heat. It felt like a betrayal, as if the desert itself was mocking their suffering with this new torment. In the gathering darkness, the guards took up their nightly vigil. They paced along the sleeping caravan, their footsteps muffled by the sand. The campfire was kept low, a mere flicker of warmth and light, lest its glow attract unwanted attention. For in the night, other dangers prowled the dunes. Bandits and raiders who moved like ghosts across the moonlit sands. Silence descended upon the camp, broken only by the occasional snort of a camel or the whisper of wind over sand. This silence, once welcomed after the harsh sounds of the day's march, now became an enemy in its own right. In the quiet, each guard was left alone with his thoughts, his fears amplified under the vast, star-hung dome of the desert sky. The night wore on, each hour stretching into an eternity. The guard's eyes strained against the darkness, searching for any movement, any sign of approaching danger. Their ears were attuned to the slightest sound, ready to raise the alarm at a moment's notice. In this realm of shadows and starlight, vigilance was their only defense against the unknown. As the first hint of dawn began to lighten the eastern sky, the caravan stirred once more. Another day of grueling march lay ahead, another test of endurance and will. The guards, weary from their night watch, steeled themselves for the challenges to come. For in the Sahara, each day was a battle, each mile a victory hard won against the elements. The sun rose, painting the dunes in hues of gold and rose, a breathtaking sight that belied the harshness of the land. The caravan set out once more, a line of dark silhouettes against the brightening sky. The guards took up their positions, eyes already scanning the horizon for any sign of threat or hope. As they journeyed deeper into the heart of the desert, the true nature of their quest became clear. This was not merely a journey from one place to another. It was a test of the human spirit, a battle against the very forces of nature. The Sahara demanded respect, and it would accept nothing less than the utmost strength and determination from those who dared to cross it. Days blended into nights, each hour marked by its own unique challenges. The relentless sun, the biting cold, the ever-present threat of sandstorms that could appear without warning and vanish just as quickly, leaving chaos in their wake. Through it all, the guards remained vigilant, their resolve unbroken. Water became more precious than gold, each sip rationed with utmost care. The caravan's guides, their knowledge passed down through generations, led them from one hidden well to another, each oasis a lifeline in this sea of sand. But even their wisdom could not always predict the whims of the desert, and there were times when hope seemed as scarce as water. Yet still they pressed on, driven by a determination that seemed to grow stronger with each obstacle overcome. The guards, once strangers thrown together by circumstance, became a brotherhood forged in the crucible of the Sahara. They shared what little they had, water, food, and the will to survive, knowing that their fate was intertwined with that of every member of the caravan. As they traveled, the landscape began to change subtly. Sharp-eyed guards noticed the first signs. A different quality to the sand, a change in the wind's direction. They were nearing the edge of the great desert, though many days of travel still lay ahead. This knowledge brought both hope and a renewed sense of caution, for the final stages of a journey could often be the most perilous. The nights grew longer, the stars seeming to hang even lower in the sky. Around the low-burning campfires, stories were shared in hushed voices. Tales of caravans lost to the sands, of mirages that led men to their doom, and of the rare moments of beauty found in this harshest of lands. These stories served not just as entertainment, but as reminders of the respect and care with which one must approach the desert. As dawn broke on what they hoped would be one of their final days in the Sahara, the caravan stirred with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The guards, their faces weathered by sun and wind, took up their positions with the same vigilance they had shown since the journey began. For they knew that until the last foot stepped off the sands and onto firm ground, the desert still held sway over their fate. The Sahara had tested them, stripped away their illusions, and revealed the true measure of their character. As they marched towards the horizon, the guards carried with them not just the goods they had been tasked to protect, but a profound understanding of the desert and their place within it. They had faced the ocean of fire by day and the endless shadow by night, and emerged changed but unbroken. In the distance, a faint line of green began to appear, the first sign of the world beyond the desert. The caravan's pace quickened, hope lending strength to weary limbs. But the guards remained alert, knowing that the Sahara would not relinquish its hold easily. They had learned to respect this land, to fear it, and in some strange way, to love it. For in conquering the desert, they had discovered strengths within themselves they never knew existed. As the sun began its descent on their final day in the Sahara, the caravan reached the edge of the great desert. The transition was gradual, sand giving way to scrub, then 2 patches of grass, and finally to the lush green of cultivated land. The guards, their duty nearly complete, allowed themselves a moment of quiet celebration. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged victorious, forever changed by their journey across the timeless sands of the Sahara. The desert sun beat down mercilessly as the caravan wound its way through the endless sea of sand. Every guard knew their duty, but few truly understood the weight of responsibility that came with it. For in this unforgiving landscape, danger lurked in every shadow, every whisper of wind, and sometimes even in the hearts of those they were sworn to protect. As the day wore on, the air grew thick with tension. The guards' eyes scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of the threats they knew all too well. But the greatest dangers weren't always the ones you could see coming. The first warning came as a distant rumble, like thunder from a cloudless sky. In an instant, the lead guard's voice cut through the air, sharp with urgency. "Sandstorm, take cover." The caravan erupted into controlled chaos. Merchants scrambled to secure their precious goods, while the guards herded people and animals alike into a tight formation. As the wall of sand approached, it seemed to devour the very world around them, a monstrous beast of swirling grit and howling wind. In moments, day turned to night. The storm engulfed them, its fury unrelenting. Guards shouted instructions, their voices barely audible above the tempest. They moved by instinct and touch alone, guiding camels and people through the maelstrom. One wrong step, one moment of separation, and a life could be lost to the ever-shifting dunes. Hours passed like lifetimes as they huddled together, fighting for every breath. When at last the storm subsided, leaving them battered but alive, the true toll became clear. Supplies were lost, animals scattered, and the landscape itself had been reshaped. But they had survived, and in the desert, that was victory enough. Yet there was no time for rest or celebration. The storm had left them vulnerable, and in these lands, weakness was an invitation to far deadlier predators. As dawn broke the next day, painting the sky in hues of fire, the guards' vigilance was rewarded with a sight that chilled their blood. Silhouettes appeared on the horizon, shimmering like mirages in the early light. But these were no illusions. They were raiders, men who knew the desert as intimately as their own heartbeats. The lead guard's voice rang out, steady despite the fear that gripped them all. "Form up, protect the caravan." In an instant, blades were drawn, and the guards took their positions. They stood as a living wall between the approaching threat and the merchants whose lives and livelihoods depended on them. The raiders charged, their mounts kicking up clouds of sand, their war cries piercing the morning air. The clash was brutal and swift. Steel met steel as the guards fought with the desperation of men who knew the cost of failure. Each swing of a sword, each parry and thrust, was a testament to years of training and the raw will to survive. The merchants huddled behind their protectors, clutching treasures worth more than most men would see in a lifetime. In the heat of battle, a young guard found himself face to face with a raider whose eyes gleamed with murderous intent. Time seemed to slow as they circled each other, blades at the ready. The guard's mind raced, recalling every lesson, every hard-earned scar. With a roar that surprised even himself, he lunged forward, his sword finding its mark. As quickly as it had begun, the skirmish was over. The raiders, finding the caravan better defended than they had hoped, melted back into the desert, leaving behind their dead and wounded. The guards tended to their own injuries, counting their losses and giving thanks for their survival. But even as they celebrated this victory, the lead guard knew that their greatest challenges often came not from without, but from within. As night fell and the caravan made camp, he watched the faces around the fire with wary eyes. In the flickering light, he searched for signs of the desperation that could turn friend to foe in the blink of an eye. He had seen it before, the way hunger could hollow out a man's cheeks and his morals alike, how the promise of wealth beyond measure could twist loyalty into betrayal. In these moments, a guard's most vital weapon was not his blade, but his ability to read the subtle shifts in expression, the fleeting glances that betrayed a guilty conscience. As he made his rounds, the lead guard paused by a group of merchants engaged in hushed conversation. Their eyes darted nervously as he approached, and he felt the familiar tightening in his gut that signaled trouble brewing. "Is all well, gentlemen?" he asked, his tone casual but his gaze sharp. The merchants exchanged glances before one spoke up, his voice strained. Of course, just discussing the day's events." The guard nodded, but made a mental note to keep a closer watch on this group. In the desert, secrets were as dangerous as any blade. As the night wore on, tension simmered beneath the surface of the camp. The guard found himself mediating disputes, calming frayed nerves, and always watching. For he knew that the true test of a caravan guard was not just in fending off external threats, but in maintaining the delicate balance within. In the darkest hour before dawn, a commotion erupted near the supply wagons. The guard rushed to find two men grappling in the sand, one clutching a small pouch, the other reaching for it with desperate hands. "Enough!" The guard's voice cracked like a whip, freezing the men in place. "What's the meaning of this?" The story unfolded in bitter fragments. A stolen gem, a debt unpaid, a family left behind in poverty. The guard listened, his face impassive, as he weighed justice against mercy, knowing that his decision could mean life or death for these men and those who depended on them. In the end, he confiscated the gem to be returned to its rightful owner, but spared the thief's life. "Your punishment," he declared, "will be to work off your debt to this caravan, and to remember that in the desert we survive together or not at all." As the first light of dawn touched the eastern sky, the lead guard stood atop a dune, surveying the awakening camp. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders once more, for he knew that each day would bring new challenges, be they sandstorms that could bury them alive, raiders that struck like phantoms in the night, or the quiet desperation that could turn a man against his fellows. This was the unspoken truth of his calling. A caravan guard stood not just against the perils of the world outside, but against the darkness that lurked within the human heart. And as the caravan prepared to move out, continuing its long journey across the merciless sands, he silently renewed his vow to stand vigilant against all threats, seen and unseen. For, in the end, it was not just goods and gold that he protected, but the very bonds of trust and humanity that allowed life to flourish in this harshest of realms. And that, he knew, was a treasure beyond price. In the vast expanse of the Sahara, where the sun beats down mercilessly and the wind whispers ancient secrets, a caravan guard's life hangs by a thread woven from memory and instinct. Here, there are no paper maps to guide you, no GPS to pinpoint your location. Instead, survival is etched into the mind, a living map that evolves with each step across the shifting sands. Imagine, if you will, a lone figure atop a camel, silhouetted against the setting sun. This is our guard, eyes scanning the horizon, mind cataloguing every detail. To the untrained eye, the desert might seem an endless sea of sameness. But to the guard, it's a landscape rich with markers and meaning. There, to the east, a crescent-shaped dune rises like the curve of a scimitar. Its shape, sculpted by countless winds, is as familiar to the guard as the lines on his own palm. To the west, a solitary acacia tree stands defiant against the barren expanse, its branches reaching towards the sky like gnarled fingers. And in the distance, a ridge of black volcanic rock cuts across the horizon, its jagged outline a stark contrast to the soft curves of the dunes. These are not mere features of the landscape. They are the whispers of the desert, a secret language spoken in sand and stone. Each landmark is a vital clue, a stepping stone on the path to the next well, the next moment of respite from the relentless sun. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why a caravan guard's most precious weapon isn't the blade at his side or the rifle slung across his back. It's the map that lives in his head, a mental tapestry woven from years of experience and keen observation. The stakes couldn't be higher. Forget one crucial landmark, misremember the shape of a dune or the position of a star, and you could lead an entire caravan astray. In the desert, such a mistake isn't measured in mere inconvenience. It's counted in lives lost, in the agonizing deaths of men and beasts alike as water runs dry and hope evaporates under the merciless sun. But the danger doesn't only lie in forgetting. Remember too many false landmarks. Let your mind be tricked by the desert's shimmering mirages, and you'll find yourself chasing phantoms across the sands. You'll exhaust your supplies, drain your water skins, all in pursuit of an oasis that exists only in your mind's eye. This is why the guards train themselves to see differently. They don't just look at the desert, they read it, interpreting its subtle signs with the skill of a scholar poring over an ancient text. They notice how the wind sculpts dunes into certain shapes, creating patterns as distinct and meaningful as any written word. they observe how the stars shift with the changing seasons. Each constellation a celestial signpost guiding their way through the endless dark. Even the very air holds clues for those who know how to interpret them. A change in taste, a shift in humidity. These can signal that an oasis lies just beyond the horizon, hidden from sight but promising life-giving water to those who can find it. As night falls and the heat of the day gives way to the desert's bone-deep chill, the sky becomes the God's greatest ally. The Milky Way arches overhead, a river of stars pouring across the velvet blackness. To the uninitiated, it might seem a chaotic scattering of lights. But to the guard, it's a map more reliable than any parchment. Each constellation a glowing signpost pointing the way forward. Yet memory, no matter how keen, is only part of the equation. The truly great guards, the ones whose names are spoken with reverence around campfires, possess something more. An almost supernatural instinct honed by years in the desert. These are the guards who can smell rain days before the first drops fall, their nostrils flaring at the faintest hint of moisture carried on the wind. They are the ones who can feel the tremor of approaching camel hooves through the soles of their feet, long before their ears catch even the faintest sound of an approaching caravan. To the uninitiated, such abilities might seem like magic, a form of desert sorcery beyond the reach of ordinary men. But out here, in the endless expanse of sand and sky, instinct isn't magic. It's the culmination of a lifetime spent listening to the earth, attuning oneself to its rhythms until the very ground beneath your feet speaks to you. As our guard sits atop his camel, scanning the horizon for the 100th time that day, he's not just looking, he's listening. Listening to the whisper of sand grains shifting in the wind. Listening to the subtle changes in the air that herald the approach of a sandstorm. Listening to the silent song of the stars as they wheel overhead, marking the passage of time in their eternal dance. This is the true skill of the Caravan Guard. Not just surviving the desert, but becoming one with it. Learning its language, reading its signs, until the vast emptiness becomes as familiar as home. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, our guard allows himself a small smile. Another day survived, another step closer to their destination. In the distance, he can just make out the silhouettes of the caravan, a string of dark shapes against the deepening twilight. They trust him with their lives. These merchants and travelers, they follow where he leads, relying on the map in his mind and the instincts in his bones to guide them safely through the perilous beauty of the Sahara. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new landmarks to memorize, new signs to interpret. But for now, as the first stars begin to twinkle overhead, our guard settles in for the night watch. His eyes scan the darkness, alert for any hint of danger. His ears strain for the faintest sound out of place. And his mind, that living map of the desert, continues to update and evolve, adding each new experience to the vast tapestry of knowledge that keeps him, and those who depend on him, alive. In the Sahara, where life and death balance on a knife's edge, the Caravan Guard stands as a testament to human adaptability and resilience. Armed not with weapons of steel, but with the far more potent arms of memory and instinct, these guardians of the desert continue a tradition as old as trade itself. As you drift off to sleep tonight, in the comfort of your home, spare a thought for those solitary figures out there in the vastness of the Sahara. Think of the mental maps they carry, more detailed and precious than any Google Earth image. And remember that in some parts of our world, survival still depends not on technology, but on the age-old skills of observation, memory, and the ability to read the language of the earth itself. For in the end, that's what sets the Caravan Guard apart. not just the ability to survive in the desert, but to thrive in it, to find beauty in its stark expanses, meaning in its subtle signs, and a path through its seeming emptiness. It's a reminder that even in the most challenging environments, human ingenuity and adaptability can find a way forward, guided by the map that lives in the mind and instincts honed by a lifetime of listening to whispers of the desert. In the unforgiving expanse of the Sahara, water reigns supreme as the only true currency. Caravan guards bore a burden far greater than mere protection of people and goods. They were the guardians of life itself. Every journey across the endless sea of sand was a precarious balancing act, a desperate dance between known wells. Each oasis, each hidden spring, was a fragile promise amidst the shifting dunes. To miss even one was to invite the desert's merciless embrace, a silent end beneath the scorching sun. These wells, these lifelines, were rarely as simple as open holes in the ground. Some lay concealed beneath the crumbling remnants of ancient stone structures, silent testaments to long-forgotten travelers who had passed this way centuries before. Others were nothing more than shallow depressions in dry riverbeds, patiently awaiting the rare rains to seep through and offer their precious bounty. In this harsh land, a guard's true worth was measured not in strength or skill with a blade, but in his intimate knowledge of these secret reservoirs. It was a mental map etched by experience where to find them, when they last yielded water, and the delicate art of rationing so that every soul in the caravan could take one more step toward salvation. Approaching a well was never a straightforward affair. The promise of water often drew others, transforming what should have been a moment of relief into a tense standoff. Rival caravans might already be there, their own guards eyeing newcomers with suspicion, hands never far from their weapons. In these moments, diplomacy became as vital as the water itself. Skilled guards learned to negotiate, to find common ground in shared desperation, knowing that conflict could leave everyone parched and dying in the sand. But rival caravans were not the only danger lurking at these oases. Sometimes the water itself became the enemy, poisoned by malicious hands or tainted by the capricious whims of nature. A good guard developed a sixth sense for danger, learning to test the taste with the tip of his tongue, to inhale deeply for the faint metallic temps that whispered of death. They watched the animals closely, knowing that a camel's refusal to drink could save human lives. Only when satisfied would they allow the precious liquid to pass human lips, each sip a gamble with fate. Yet even the most skilled and experienced guard could find himself betrayed by the desert's cruel unpredictability. A well remembered from the previous season, one that had saved lives and renewed hope, might now be nothing but a patch of cracked earth. The guard's heart would sink, a leaden weight in his chest, as he gazed upon the barren ground where life-giving water should have been. But in the merciless realm of the Sahara, there was no time for despair. Every moment of hesitation brought the caravan closer to doom. The guard had to make an impossible choice, press forward to the next uncertain hope, or turn back, risking everything either way. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, painting the dunes in shades of gold and amber, a lone figure stood atop a rocky outcrop. His eyes, shielded by a wrap of rough cloth, scanned the horizon. In the distance, a shimmer caught his attention, perhaps a mirage, perhaps salvation. With a gesture, he signaled to the caravan below. Slowly, they began to move, a line of dark shapes against the endless sand. The guard's mind raced, calculating distances, estimating water reserves, weighing the chances of survival against the cost of failure. The journey to the next well was a test of endurance and will. The sun beat down mercilessly, sapping strength and resolve with every step. The guard moved among the travelers, offering encouragement, rationing water with meticulous care. Each person received just enough to keep moving, not a drop more. Children whimpered, their small bodies struggling against the heat. The elderly stumbled, supported by younger arms. Through it all, the guard remained vigilant, his eyes constantly scanning for danger or man as they approached the coordinates where the well should be. Tension mounted. Would there be water? Would others already be there? The guard's hand tightened on his weapon, ready for any eventuality. Cresting a dune, they saw it a small cluster of palm trees, a promise of life in the barren landscape. But as they drew closer, hearts sank. Another caravan was already there, their guards alert and wary. What followed was a delicate dance of diplomacy and desperation. The guard stepped forward, hands raised in a gesture of peace. Words were exchanged, tense at first, then gradually warming. Both groups knew the stakes. There was enough water for one caravan, but not for two. In the end, a compromise was reached. They would share, each taking only what was absolutely necessary to reach the next well. It was a risk, leaving both groups vulnerable. But it was the only way to avoid bloodshed. As night fell, the combined caravans settled around the well. The guard took his position, watchful even in the darkness. He knew that morning would bring new challenges, new decisions. But for now, there was water, there was life. In the Sahara, that was all anyone could ask for. The next day dawned clear and hot, the sun already fierce as it climbed above the horizon. The guard roused his charges, urging them to drink deeply before the journey resumed. As they prepared to leave, he approached the well one last time. Lowering a goatskin bag, he listened to the splash of water far below. It was a sound that never failed to stir something primal within him: relief, gratitude, and the ever-present fear that next time the well might be dry. With the caravan assembled, the guard took his place at the head of the line. His eyes scanned the endless expanse before them, searching for landmarks only he could recognize. In his mind, he traced the route to the next well, a journey of several days through some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. He knew the risks, the countless ways the desert could claim them. But he also knew the strength of the human spirit, the will to survive that could overcome even the harshest odds. As they set out, the guard's thoughts turned to the wells that lay ahead. Some would be familiar, reliable friends that had sustained travelers for generations. Others would be little more than rumors, whispered about in marketplaces and around campfires. Each one represented a chance at life, a momentary reprieve from the desert's relentless assault. But reaching them was only half the battle. The true test came in managing the precious resource they provided, in stretching every drop to its limit. The days that followed were a blur of heat, thirst, and constant vigilance. The guard pushed the caravan hard, knowing that every hour gained could mean the difference between life and death. He watched for signs of fatigue and heat stroke among his charges, ready to intervene at the first hint of trouble. At night, he stood watch while others slept, his ears attuned to the subtle sounds of the desert, the whisper of wind over sand, the distant cry of a jackal, the soft footfalls of those who might wish them harm. As they neared the location of the next well, anticipation and dread warred within the guard's heart. Would they find water or only disappointment? The answer came as they crested a final dune. There, nestled in a small depression, was a sight that brought tears to weary eyes: a small pool of clear, life-giving water. The guard moved quickly, organizing the distribution of water with practiced efficiency. But even as he worked, his mind was already on the next leg of the journey, the next well that would decide their fate. For in the Sahara, survival was never guaranteed. it was a constant struggle, a daily battle against the elements and one's own limitations. And at the center of it all were the well's silent sentinels that held the power of life and death in their depths. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple, the guard allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought of all the caravans he had led, all the lives that had depended on his knowledge and skill. He thought of the wells that had saved them and those that had failed them. And he knew, with a certainty born of years in the desert, that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and new opportunities for both triumph and tragedy. For, in the end, that was the true nature of life in the Sahara constant journey between wells. Each one a fragile promise in a sea of shifting sand. Miss one, and the desert claimed you without ceremony. Find one, and you lived to face another day, another test of will and endurance. It was a harsh existence, but one that forged unbreakable bonds and revealed the true strength of the human spirit. And as long as there were wells to be found and caravans to guide, the guard would continue his endless journey across the sands, guardian of the route to life itself. In the vast expanse of the Sahara, death often came without warning. Sometimes it struck swiftly, a towering wall of sand engulfing a traveler in mere moments. Other times, it crept in slowly, the relentless heat-sapping strength, until a weary soul could no longer keep pace with the caravan. The desert didn't roar when it claimed a life. It whispered with the gentle rustle of sand grains settling over motionless forms. For the caravan guards, this reality weighed heavily upon their shoulders. They were more than just protectors. They were often the first to discover those who had fallen behind. In this unforgiving landscape, survival demanded harsh decisions. Risk the entire group to save one, or abandon a comrade to the merciless sands. Even the strongest bonds of friendship could fray under the desert's unyielding laws. The Sahara was not content to simply take part. It often left haunting reminders, a tattered headscarf caught on a gnarled acacia branch, footprints leading nowhere before vanishing into the dunes. Months or even years might pass before another group of travelers stumbled upon sun-bleached bones or scraps of leather barely visible beneath the shifting sands. These grim discoveries served as silent testaments to the perils that lurked in every step across this barren land. No mournful melodies echoed across the dunes for those lost to the desert's embrace. No stone markers stood to commemorate their final resting place. The Sahara itself became both witness and tomb, the endless sea of sand serving as nature's own unmarked grave. For those fortunate enough to survive the journey, these memories cut deeper than any blade. A stark reminder that no amount of skill or preparation could ever truly render the desert harmless. The caravan guards understood this better than most. Their eyes constantly scanned the horizon, searching for signs of danger or weakness among their charges. They knew that a moment's inattention could mean the difference between life and death. The weight of responsibility pressed down upon them, as heavy as the scorching midday sun. In the quiet moments of the night, when the air grew chill and the stars blazed overhead, the guards would sometimes speak in hushed tones of those they had lost. Names were rarely mentioned. It was as if speaking them aloud might summon the desert's hunger. Instead, they shared fragments of memories. A laugh, a kindness shown, a moment of bravery in the face of adversity. These whispered recollections were all that remained of lives swallowed by the sands. The desert's cruelty extended beyond the physical realm. It preyed upon the mind, twisting perceptions and sowing doubt. Mirages shimmered on the horizon, promising oases that never materialized. The monotony of endless dunes could drive even the most stalwart traveler to despair. In this environment, the caravan guards served not only as physical protectors, but as anchors of sanity. Their steady presence a reminder that hope still existed. Yet even the guards were not immune to the desert's tricks. There were tales of seasoned veterans who, in a moment of confusion, had wandered away from the safety of the group, never to be seen again. The Sahara did not discriminate. It claimed the experienced and the novice alike with equal indifference. For those left behind, the loss of a companion to the desert was a wound that never truly healed. Each step across the shifting sands carried the weight of remembrance. Every distant mirage held the faintest hope that perhaps, against all odds, a lost friend might emerge from the haze. But such hopes were as fleeting as morning dew in the scorching heat. The caravan's progress was marked not just by distance traveled, but by the absences that grew with each passing day. An empty space where a familiar face should have been, a voice missing from the nightly conversations around the campfire. These silent gaps spoke volumes, each one a testament to the desert's unforgiving nature. In rare moments of vulnerability, even the most hardened guards might speak of their fears, not of death itself, but of being forgotten, of disappearing without a trace into the vastness of the Sahara, to vanish so completely that it was as if one had never existed at all. This was the true terror that haunted their dreams. Yet, despite the dangers, the caravans continued to traverse the desert. Trade routes that had existed for centuries could not be abandoned, no matter the cost in human lives. The guards steeled themselves for each journey, knowing that they might be called upon to make impossible choices in the name of survival. As the sun rose each morning, painting the dunes in shades of gold and rose, the caravan would stir to life. The guards would take their positions, eyes alert for any sign of trouble. They knew that with each step they were defying the desert's attempts to claim them. It was a battle fought not with weapons, but with will. The determination to see another sunrise, to reach the next oasis, to complete the journey against all odds. The desert, for its part, remained impassive. It had seen countless caravans come and go, had swallowed entire armies and spat out their bones. Time meant nothing here. 1,000 years was but a blink in the life of the Sahara. It would continue long after the last human footprint had been erased from its surface. For those who managed to cross the vast expanse and reach their destination, the relief was palpable. Yet even as they celebrated their survival, there was a somber undercurrent to their joy. They had made it, yes, but at what cost? How many had been left behind, their names now nothing more than whispers on the wind. The caravan guards, more than anyone, understood the true price of traversing the Sahara. They carried with them not just the physical scars of their journeys, but the weight of every life lost under their watch. It was a burden that grew heavier with each crossing, a silent testament to the desert's power. In the end, the Sahara remained unconquered. It tolerated the presence of humans, allowed them to scurry across its surface like ants on a vast tablecloth. But it never truly yielded, never became safe or tame. The desert endured, patient and eternal, waiting for the moment when even the mightiest traveler would falter and join the countless others claimed by the sands. And so the cycle continued, caravans setting out with hope and determination, knowing that some among them would not return. The desert watched, silent and implacable, ready to embrace those who faltered. In this endless dance between man and nature, the Sahara always had the final say. By the end of this part, you'll understand why a caravan guard's survival depended not just on strength, but on hearing things others couldn't. The Sahara is not silent. To the untrained ear, it may seem like an endless hush, sand stretching in all directions, the sun's heat making the air ripple. But to a seasoned guard, the desert has 1,000 quiet voices. A soft hiss might mean a sudden shift in the wind, warning of an approaching sandstorm. A faint clicking, barely audible, might be the sound of a camel growing restless, a sign that predators or strangers could be nearby. In this vast emptiness, every sound is a clue. Guards learned to tell the difference between the wind brushing over a dune and the whisper of fabric. A headscarf in motion, miles away. Some could even tell if a rider's camel was tired just by the rhythm of its footsteps. This was not superstition. It was survival. The desert's language is subtle, a whisper carried on the breeze. It speaks in the rustle of sand grains, the distant cry of a bird, the creak of leather as a rider shifts in their saddle. For those who know how to listen, these sounds paint a vivid picture of the world beyond the horizon. A skilled guard could close their eyes and still navigate the invisible landscape of threats and opportunities that surrounded the caravan. But it wasn't just about hearing the desert itself. The most crucial sounds were often those made by humans, the ones carried in hushed tones between guards. Caravan protectors developed their own form of communication, a language as intricate and vital as any spoken tongue. They spoke in a kind of code, short, clipped phrases layered with double meanings. Words had to travel efficiently over the wind without drawing unwanted attention. Imagine a guard spotting a dust cloud in the distance. To the untrained eye, it might be nothing more than a mirage. But to the seasoned protector, it could signal approaching riders, friend or foe. A simple phrase like "the wind dances" might carry layers of meaning, alerting others to potential danger without alarming the merchants or attracting notice from possible eavesdroppers. These coded exchanges weren't just about secrecy. In the vast expanse of the desert, where sound carries for miles, shouting could be dangerous. It could reveal your position to enemies or spook the animals. Guards never raised their voices unless danger was immediate. Instead, they relied on a system of subtle cues and prearranged signals. Sometimes communication transcended words entirely. A raised hand, a shifting of weight, or the subtle tapping of a spear butt on the ground could signal readiness or alert others to a change in plans. These non-verbal cues formed a silent language, allowing guards to coordinate their movements and strategies without uttering a sound. This intricate system of communication was the Sahara's own version of Morse code, a language that existed nowhere in books, only in the memories of those who walked its shifting paths. It was passed down from veteran guards to novices, each generation adding its own nuances and adaptations. To be a guard was to be fluent in this silence, to listen so deeply that the desert itself seemed to answer back. It required a level of awareness that went beyond mere vigilance. Guards had to attune themselves to the rhythm of the caravan, the mood of the animals, the subtle shifts in the air that might herald a change in weather or fortunes. Consider the complexity of this silent dialogue. A guard at the rear of the caravan might notice a slight change in the texture of the sand. Beneath their feet, a sign that they were entering territory known for quicksand. With a series of hand gestures and barely audible whistles, they could relay this information to the lead guards, who would then subtly adjust the caravan course without alarming the merchants or disrupting the journey's flow. This heightened state of awareness extended to the night as well. When darkness fell over the desert, the guards' other senses sharpened even further. The rustle of a scorpion scuttling across the sand, the faint glow of distant campfires, the change in air temperature that might signal an oasis nearby. All of these became vital pieces of information in the endless puzzle of desert survival. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this desert language was its adaptability. Just as the sands of the Sahara are constantly shifting, so too did the guards' communication methods evolve. New threats required new signals, and encounters with different cultures along the trade routes led to the incorporation of fresh words and gestures into their lexicon. This wasn't just a practical skill, it was an art form, honed over generations. The most respected guards were those who could read the desert like a book, interpreting its subtle signs and translating them into actionable intelligence for the caravan. Their expertise went beyond mere physical prowess. They were the desert's linguists, fluent in a language as old as the sands themselves. The importance of this silent language cannot be overstated. In a landscape where a single mistake could mean death for an entire caravan, the ability to communicate effectively and discreetly was often the difference between success and disaster. It allowed guards to coordinate complex strategies, warn of approaching dangers, and navigate treacherous terrain without alerting potential enemies to their presence or intentions. This system of communication was more than just a tool. It was a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability. In one of the harshest environments on Earth, people found a way to turn silence into a powerful ally. They learned to hear meaning in the whisper of the wind, to read stories in the patterns of footprints left in the sand. As we reflect on this hidden language of the Sahara, we're reminded of the incredible depths of human perception and creativity. In a world that often values loud, bold statements, the guards of the desert caravans understood the power of subtlety and restraint. They knew that sometimes the most important messages are conveyed not in shouts, but in whispers. Their legacy lives on, not just in the tales of desert adventures, but in the very essence of effective communication. In our modern world, where information overload is a constant challenge, perhaps we can learn something from these ancient guardians of the sands. They remind us to listen closely, to pay attention to the subtle cues around us, and to understand that true wisdom often speaks in the quietest of voices. The next time you find yourself in a vast, open space, be it a desert, a mountain range, or even a bustling city, take a moment to listen. Really listen. You might be surprised at the stories the silence has to tell. The Sahara Desert, a vast expanse of sand and heat, challenges not only the body but also the mind. Even the most seasoned caravan guard can find their resolve tested when confronted with the desert's age-old tricks. As the sun beats down mercilessly, heat waves shimmer across the dunes, conjuring illusions of water that vanish upon approach. The endless stretches of sand play tricks on the eyes, making distant dunes appear deceptively close, only for travelers to discover that miles of arduous journey still lie ahead. These mirages are more than mere optical illusions. They are the desert's way of wearing down one's spirit, teaching humility through sheer exhaustion. In this unforgiving landscape, a caravan guard quickly learns that perception can be as treacherous as a raider's blade. A single misstep, born from a moment's lapse in judgment, might lead to dehydration, separation from the group, or worse, an ambush by those who prey on the unwary. The ability to distinguish reality from illusion is not innate. It comes only after years of walking the sands, watching the horizon, and listening to the whispers of the wind. Experienced guards often rely on landmarks to anchor their sense of reality. A gnarled tree standing defiant against the elements, an unusual rock formation jutting from the sand like the bones of some ancient beast, or clusters of hardy thorn bushes that cling to life in this harsh environment. These markers serve as touchstones, confirming the truth of what weary eyes report, and guiding the caravan through the treacherous sea of sand. As the day progresses and the sun's intensity reaches its peak, the desert's illusions grow more potent. The air above the dunes shimmers like water, creating a false oasis that beckons with promises of relief. Camels halt their instincts at odds with the mirage before them, while guards scan the horizon with narrowed eyes, searching for any sign of truth amidst the deception. In the distance, the faint shadow of what might be an oasis wavers, a tantalizing possibility that must be approached with caution. For in the Sahara, hope can be as dangerous as despair. The challenges of the desert do not subside with the setting of the sun. As night falls and the oppressive heat gives way to a bone-chilling cold, the mind remains restless, grappling with new forms of illusion. Stars that once seemed fixed points of navigation appear to shift in the vast expanse of the night sky, while familiar dunes take on unfamiliar shapes in the moonlight. It is in these dark hours that guards must rely on rituals and routines to anchor themselves to reality. Some measure their steps with meticulous care, counting under their breath as they patrol the perimeter of the camp. Others repeat phrases passed down through generations of desert travelers, mantras that serve as both comfort and compass. Many turn their eyes to the heavens, tracing the constellations that guided their ancestors across this same unforgiving terrain. These acts of mental discipline are not mere superstition. They are as vital to survival as the sword at one's hip or the spear in one's hand. For in the Sahara, losing one's mind means losing the caravan, and losing the caravan often means losing one's life. The desert is a patient teacher, and it does not forgive mistakes. Each trick, each mirage, serves as a quiet reminder that survival in this harsh land requires calm, clarity, and constant vigilance. Those who forget this lesson, who allow their guard to drop even for a moment, may never see the next sunrise. As the night deepens, a lone guard stands atop a dune, his silhouette etched against the star-studded sky. With measured steps, he paces along the edge, counting each footfall in a low, steady rhythm. Behind him, the sleeping caravan lies in shadow, a collection of dark shapes huddled against the cold. In the distance, the horizon shimmers with subtle, ghost-like mirages, a reminder that even in darkness, the desert's illusions persist. The guard's eyes scan the terrain, alert for any sign of danger, real or imagined. The Sahara's lessons are hard-won and never forgotten. Experienced guards speak of times when entire caravans have been led astray by convincing mirages, wandering off course for days before realizing their error. They tell of men driven mad by thirst, chasing phantom lakes across endless dunes until they collapse, never to rise again. These stories are not meant to frighten, but to educate, to instill a healthy respect for the desert's power to deceive. In the face of such challenges, caravan guards develop a sixth sense, an intuition honed by countless journeys across the sands. They learn to read the subtle signs of the desert, the way the wind shapes the dunes, the behavior of desert creatures, the quality of the light as it changes throughout the day. This knowledge becomes a shield against the Sahara's deceptions, allowing guards to navigate with confidence even when their eyes cannot be trusted. Yet even the most experienced guard knows that overconfidence can be fatal. The desert has a way of humbling those who believe they have mastered its ways. A sudden sandstorm can erase familiar landmarks in minutes, leaving even seasoned travelers disoriented. The intense heat of midday can play tricks on the mind, causing hallucinations that seem as real as the sand beneath one's feet. In such moments, the ability to remain calm and think clearly can mean the difference between life and death. The caravan's survival depends not just on the skill of its guards, but on the collective wisdom of the group. Travelers share knowledge, pooling their experiences to better understand and navigate the desert's challenges. They develop systems of communication, using hand signals and coded calls to convey information without alerting potential threats. In this harsh environment, trust and cooperation become as essential as water and shade. As dawn breaks, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, the caravan stirs to life. Guards who have maintained their vigil through the night greet their replacements, passing on any observations or concerns. The day's journey begins anew, with all eyes alert for the tricks and traps that lie ahead. For in the Sahara, every day is a test of body and mind, a challenge to be met with respect, preparation, and unwavering focus. The desert does not yield its secrets easily, nor does it offer comfort to those who traverse its vast expanses. Yet, for those who learn to read its signs, to navigate its illusions, and to respect its power, the Sahara offers a unique kind of beauty. In the shimmering heat of day and the star-filled nights, in the endless dunes and the rare oases, there is a majesty that speaks to the human spirit. It is this beauty, as much as the promise of trade or adventure, that calls travelers back to the desert time and again. As the caravan moves forward, guards and travelers alike carry with them the knowledge that each step is a victory, each day survived a testament to human resilience. The Sahara may test them, may try to deceive them with its mirages and illusions, but they press on, guided by experience, tradition, and an unbreakable will to endure. For in this ancient dance between man and desert, there is no final victory, only the ongoing challenge to adapt, to learn, and to survive in one of the world's most unforgiving landscapes. As the first light of dawn breaks over the Sahara, ancient whispers dance across the dunes. These are the stories of the desert, passed down through generations of caravan guards, etched into the very fabric of the landscape. In the footsteps of camels and the dry scent of sand after a rare night rain, the desert's memory lives on. Each journey across this vast expanse adds another layer to its timeless wisdom, and for those who traverse these sands, survival depends on heeding the lessons the desert has already taught. Around a small campfire, as the sky begins to lighten, guards sit in hushed reverence. Their eyes reflect the flickering flames as they share tales in low voices, mindful of the sleeping travelers nearby. These stories are not mere entertainment. They are vital lessons, warnings passed down through the ages. One guard speaks of a merchant caravan that vanished without a trace, swallowed by the shifting dunes during a sandstorm that raged for days. Another recounts the fate of a group of raiders who, in their arrogance, thought they could outsmart the desert's neutrality. The sands showed no favor, and their bones now lie bleached and forgotten beneath the endless expanse. A third tells of a lone traveler who, guided by the flight of a solitary bird, discovered an oasis hidden from all maps. These tales, shared in the quiet hours before the sun's heat becomes unbearable, serve as both caution and inspiration. They remind all who listen that, in the Sahara, respect for the desert's ways is not just tradition, it is the key to survival. As the fire dies down to embers, the guards fall silent, each lost in thought. The shadows stretch long across the sand, and in the distance, the dunes take on a soft, ethereal glow. It's a moment of transition, where the cool of night gives way to the promise of another scorching day. In this harsh and unforgiving landscape, practical knowledge and legend intertwine, becoming inseparable. The whisper of wind across the dunes is not just a sound. It's a harbinger of approaching storms. The shape of a sandhill is not mere happenstance. It reveals hidden dangers to those who know how to read its contours. A lone bird circling in the distance is more than just a creature of the air. It's a sign of hidden water, a lifeline in this parched world. For those who travel the ancient trade routes, every detail of the desert holds meaning. Every observation a potential key to survival. Patience is not just a virtue in the Sahara. It is an essential skill. Days may pass with nothing but the relentless sun and endless sand to mark the passage of time. Yet, even in this seeming monotony, the desert demands constant vigilance. A shifting shadow could signal the approach of other travelers, friend or foe. A distant plume of smoke might indicate a settlement, or perhaps a trap set by those who prey on unwary caravans. The angle of heat shimmering above the dunes tells its own story to those who have learned to interpret its subtle language. It speaks of distances, of mirages, and of the true path through treacherous terrain. In this world, each step is both a lesson and a test, a continuous dialogue between traveler and desert. As the sun climbs higher, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and gold, a solitary guard stands watch on a high dune. His eyes scan the horizon, ever alert for signs of danger or promise. Behind him, camels rest, their shapes dark against the brightening sky. A gentle breeze stirs the sand, creating ripples that mirror the vast ocean this desert once was, eons ago. In the distance, a subtle shimmer marks the boundary between earth and sky, a reminder of the desert's ability to deceive and enchant in equal measure. This is a land of extremes, where life and death balance on the edge of a blade, where a single mistake can mean the difference between reaching one's destination and becoming another tale whispered round future campfires. The guard shifts his weight, adjusting his stance as he continues his vigil. He knows that in the Sahara, vigilance is not just about watching for physical threats. It's about reading the subtle signs of the desert itself, understanding its moods and messages. A change in the taste of the air, a shift in the pattern of the wind, these can be as important as any sight on the horizon. As the caravan begins to stir, preparing for another day's journey, the guard descends from his post. He joins his companions, sharing what he has observed during his watch. Each piece of information, no matter how small, is weighed and considered. In this environment, knowledge is as precious as water, and sharing it can mean the difference between life and death. The leader of the caravan calls for a moment of reflection before they set out. "Let us pause here for a moment," he says, his voice carrying across the now quiet camp. The fire crackles softly, and we rest beneath the stars, gathering strength for the journey ahead. In this moment of stillness, each member of the caravan feels the weight of the desert's history pressing upon them. They are not just travelers crossing a barren landscape. They are part of an unbroken chain stretching back through millennia. Every footstep they take adds to the desert's memory. Every decision they make becomes part of its lore. As they prepare to move out, the caravan members perform rituals passed down through generations. These are not mere superstitions, but practical acts imbued with the wisdom of countless journeys. They check their water supplies, adjust their loads, and offer silent prayers to whatever forces they believe guide their steps through this unforgiving land. The Sahara does not forgive mistakes, nor does it offer second chances lightly. Yet, for those who learn to read its signs, who respect its power and embrace its teachings, it offers a beauty and a freedom found nowhere else on earth. The desert strips away pretense, leaving only the essential. In its vast expanses, travelers find not just the limits of their endurance, but the depths of their courage and resourcefulness. As the caravan sets off, their path stretching before them like a ribbon of gold in the morning light. Each member carries with them the stories shared around the campfire. These tales are more than just entertainment. They are a map, a guide to navigating not just the physical landscape of the Sahara, but its spiritual and emotional terrain as well. With each step, they write their own chapter in the desert's endless story. Perhaps one day, their journey will become another legend whispered across the dunes. Another lesson etched into the sands of time. For now, they move forward, alert to every sign and signal, ready to face whatever challenges the day may bring. In the Sahara, every journey is a test, every arrival a victory. As the sun climbs higher, casting long shadows across the dunes, the caravan disappears into the shimmering distance, becoming one with the desert that has shaped the destinies of travelers for countless generations. As we journey through the heart of the Sahelian kingdoms, we arrive at Gao, a jewel nestled along the Niger River. Here, the stark contrast between the harsh life of caravan guards and the opulent world of the riverine elite comes into sharp focus. By the end of this segment, you'll gain a deep understanding of this dichotomy, witnessing the power and luxury that defined the upper echelons of Gao society. Gao stood as a testament to the wealth and influence of the Sahelian kingdoms. Its rulers and nobles resided in grand structures crafted from sun-baked brick, a far cry from the simple shelters of desert travelers. These palatial homes were adorned with intricately carved wooden doors, their surfaces alive with painted motifs depicting a rich tapestry of animals, celestial bodies, and ancestral symbols. Within these walls, life moved to a different rhythm, one not dictated by the unforgiving desert heat or the constant thirst of long journeys, but by the ebb and flow of feasts, ceremonies, and political machinations. The Sahelian elite carried themselves with an air of calm confidence that spoke volumes of their status and power. Their attire was a sight to behold. Flowing robes dyed in deep indigos and vibrant reds, a stark contrast to the practical, dust-covered garments of desert travelers. These robes were further embellished with intricate beadwork and gold jewelry that caught the sunlight, creating a dazzling display of tiny, twinkling stars with every movement. Such opulence was not merely for show. It was a clear statement of wealth and influence in a world where appearances often held as much sway as actions. Meals within the palaces of Gao were nothing short of spectacular. Platters overflowing with golden millet, succulent roasted meats, and an array of dried fruits graced elaborately woven mats. Honey-sweetened drinks flowed freely, quenching thirsts in a manner far removed from the rationed sips of water that sustained life in the desert. As guests reclined on plush cushions, their senses were further delighted by the melodious strumming of chorus. Minstrels, their voices rich with tradition, recited poetry that extolled the lineage and valor of rulers, weaving tales of heroism and divine right that reinforced the power structures of Gao. Imagine, if you will, the interior of a Gao palace courtyard at midday. The sun hangs high in the sky, its rays filtering through intricately latticed screens to create patterns on the cool stone floor. Nobles, resplendent in their flowing indigo and crimson robes, move with measured grace, their gold jewelry catching and reflecting the light. Platters of millet and roasted meats are artfully arranged on ornate mats, their aromas mingling with the sweet scent of incense. In the background, a kora player's fingers dance across the strings, filling the air with melodies that speak of glory and tradition. Yet, the wealth and splendor of Gao were not born in isolation. The trade routes that crisscrossed the Sahel brought more than just material riches. They were conduits of influence and power. Ambassadors and merchants from distant lands arrived regularly, bearing exotic goods that fueled the economy and curiosity of Gao's elite. Massive salt slabs from the heart of the desert, prized cola nuts from the lush forests to the south, and finely woven textiles from North Africa all found their way into the hands of Gao's nobility. These trade interactions were far more than simple exchanges of goods. They were delicate dances of diplomacy and negotiation, where a single handshake or well-chosen gift could secure decades of prosperity or, if mishandled, ignite rivalries that could smolder for generations. The guards who survived the brutal desert crossings often played a crucial role in these exchanges, delivering not just goods, but also serving as living bridges between two vastly different worlds. Their sweat and endurance made possible the opulence enjoyed by Gao's elite, a fact not lost on the more astute members of the noble class. However, life within the palace walls was not without its own set of dangers and challenges. Power struggles were a constant undercurrent, with rival factions engaged in subtle maneuvering that could make or break fortunes. In this arena, words replaced swords as the weapons of choice, and court intrigue became an art form as complex and nuanced as any desert navigation. Alliances shifted like sand dunes, and today's trusted advisor could become tomorrow's exiled enemy with alarming speed. Yet, for all its perils, the opulence and relative security of palace life made these dangers bearable, even exciting for some. The cool shade of the courtyards, the abundance of food and water, and the constant intellectual stimulation provided by visiting dignitaries and scholars created a world that was, in many ways, the polar opposite of life beyond the city walls. This stark contrast served as a constant reminder to those within that the world beyond was harsher and far more unforgiving. Picture a wide courtyard within the Zhao Palace, the mighty Niger River flowing serenely in the background. Nobles in their vibrant robes engage in animated conversation, their gestures and expressions hinting at the complex web of relationships and ambitions at play. Servants move efficiently through the space, carrying platters laden with delicacies and refreshments. In the distance, a group of traders can be seen approaching by boat, their arrival promising new goods, new information, and perhaps new opportunities for those clever enough to seize them. The elite of Gao lived in a world of contrasts. Their lives were defined by luxury and power. Yet they were acutely aware of the harsh realities that lay just beyond their walls. The same trade routes that brought them wealth and influence also brought tales of hardship and danger from the desert. The guards and merchants who risked their lives to traverse these routes were both admired for their bravery and viewed as reminders of the precariousness of their own positions. In many ways, the palaces of Gao served as microcosms of the larger Sahelian world. They were places where cultures met and mingled, where ideas were exchanged as freely as goods, and where the delicate balance of power was constantly being negotiated and renegotiated. The elite who called these palaces home were not just passive recipients of wealth and luxury. They were active participants in a complex social and political ecosystem that stretched across vast distances and diverse cultures. As we conclude our exploration of the palaces and power structures of Gao, we're left with a vivid picture of a world both familiar and alien. The opulence and intrigue of the Sahelian elite mirror similar patterns found in royal courts across time and space. Yet, the unique challenges posed by their environment, the ever-present desert, the vital importance of trade routes, the constant interplay between different cultures, created a society that was uniquely adapted to its time and place. The contrast between the brutal life of the caravan guard and the opulent world of the riverine elite serves as a powerful reminder of the complex social structures that underpinned the Sahelian kingdoms. It highlights the interdependence of different social classes and the ways in which wealth and power were both created and maintained in this fascinating period of African history. As we move forward in our journey through time, we'll continue to explore how these dynamics shaped the destinies of kingdoms, cultures, and individuals in the Sahel and beyond. In the vast expanse of the Sahara, caravan guards found themselves facing an enemy far more unpredictable than the shifting sands beneath their feet. It was not the dunes that sent shivers down their spines, but the ghostly figures that materialized on the horizon. Men with faces obscured, astride camels that moved with an eerie silence. In this unforgiving landscape, every encounter held the potential for both prosperity and peril. The desert's harsh conditions bred a particular brand of outlaw. Bandits, born of desperation and honed by the merciless environment, lurked in the shadows of the dunes. Their attacks were not wild frenzies, but calculated strikes, timed to perfection when the sun had sapped the strength from even the most stalwart of guards. Survival in these moments demanded more than brute force. It required a keen eye to decipher intent from the subtlest of gestures, a sharp mind to assess danger in the blink of an eye. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the rippling sands, tension hung thick in the air. Guards tightened their grip on well-worn spears, eyes straining to make sense of the distant silhouettes approaching on camelback. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken threats and silent prayers. Yet, not every stranger posed a threat. The vastness of the desert often brought rival caravans into fleeting contact. Brief moments of respite in the endless journey. These encounters offered a chance to exchange vital information. News of distant lands, warnings of impending storms, or even opportunities for hasty trade. But in a world where survival hung by a thread, trust was a luxury few could afford. The desert had taught its inhabitants a harsh lesson. Kindness and treachery often wore identical masks. Each meeting in this barren landscape was a test of wits and will. A single misstep could spell doom for an entire caravan. Hesitation could see precious cargo slip through fingers like grains of sand. The Sahara played no favorites, its judgment swift and impartial. Only those who could adapt to its ever-changing moods stood a chance of seeing another dawn. As two travelers faced each other in the shimmering heat, their eyes locked in a silent battle of assessment. Hands met in a cautious handshake, muscles tense and ready to react at the slightest provocation. Behind them, weary camels rested, oblivious to the delicate dance of diplomacy unfolding before them. The desert wind whispered secrets, swirling lightly around the figures as they sized each other up. In this unforgiving realm, a caravan guard's arsenal extended far beyond the weapons strapped to his side. Each man carried within him a finely honed sense of judgment, a cloak of caution wrapped tightly around his shoulders, and the crushing weight of decisions that could determine the fate of dozens. Every choice, every action rippled outward, affecting not just the individual but the entire group that depended on his vigilance. The desert never raised its voice, yet its verdicts echoed across the dunes with unmistakable clarity. Those who failed to heed its silent warnings found themselves swallowed by the sands, their stories lost to the wind. But for those who learned to read the subtle signs, who mastered the art of survival in this harshest of realms, the Sahara offered a unique kind of freedom. As the caravan pressed onward, leaving behind the site of their latest encounter, the guards remained alert. Their eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the next challenge that awaited them. In the distance, mirages shimmered, blurring the line between reality and illusion. But these men had long since learned to trust their instincts over their eyes. The journey through the Sahara was more than a test of physical endurance. It was a crucible that forged the very essence of those who dared to traverse its expanse. With each step, with each decision, the desert stripped away pretense and laid bare the true nature of those who walked its sands. In this unforgiving landscape, a person's character was revealed not in moments of comfort, but in the face of adversity and uncertainty. As night fell and the caravan settled into its evening routine, the guards took up their positions. Their eyes remained fixed on the darkness beyond the camp's flickering fires, ever watchful for the approach of friend or foe. In the quiet moments between breaths, each man reflected on the day's events, on the choices made and the consequences averted. The Sahara's lessons were etched deep into their souls, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the strength found in unity. For in this vast and unforgiving expanse, survival depended not just on individual skill, but on the bonds forged between travelers united by a common goal. As the stars wheeled overhead, silent witnesses to the eternal struggle below, the desert continued its ceaseless judgment, waiting to see who among them would rise to meet its next challenge. In the vast expanse of the Sahara, where sand and sky merge into an endless horizon, there exists a truth that every caravan guard must face, no matter their strength, their meticulous planning, or their unwavering vigilance. The desert always exacts its toll. It may claim a life, a beast of burden, a precious cargo, or simply shatter the illusion of certain survival. The Sahara holds no malice in its heart, for it has none. Its indifference is as constant as the shifting dunes that reshape the landscape with each passing wind. A once familiar path can vanish overnight, leaving even the most experienced travelers stranded in a sea of sand. The desert's cruelty lies not in intent, but in its very nature, unforgiving, unyielding, and utterly impartial to the struggles of those who dare to cross its domain. In this realm of harsh beauty, a sudden fever can transform the mightiest guard into a liability, a weight to be carried rather than a shield against danger. The whispered promises of alliances with desert bandits, born of desperation or greed, often crumble under the scorching sun, leaving betrayal as bitter as the parched earth beneath their feet. Cap-cut prompt. Wide aerial view of endless dunes under moonlight, a lone camel skeleton half buried in the sand, silence pressing heavily. As the moon casts its pale light over the rolling dunes, the true face of the desert reveals itself. A solitary camel skeleton, half buried in the sand, stands as a stark reminder of the Sahara's indifference. The silence here is not merely the absence of sound, but a palpable force that weighs upon the soul, a constant companion to those who traverse this unforgiving land. For the caravan guards, loss becomes an inevitable part of their journey, a shadow that walks beside them with each step. Survival in this harsh realm comes at a cost, etching scars not just upon their bodies, but deep within their memories. The echoes of a fallen comrade's laughter, once a source of comfort during long nights, now haunt the quiet moments between the howling winds. The anguished cries of a stolen camel, a lifeline in this barren world, replay in their minds long after the dust has settled. And the eerie silence that follows a desperate skirmish with bandits or beasts lingers far, longer than any footprint left behind in the ever-shifting sands. These guardians of the desert routes learn to carry their losses like the goods they protect, each memory a weight that threatens to pull them down into the dunes. Yet they press on, for to stop is to surrender to the desert's embrace. They become intimately acquainted with the cruel arithmetic of survival. What can be saved? What must be sacrificed? and what will be taken regardless of their choices. The desert, in its timeless wisdom, offers no apologies for the hardships it imposes. It provides no explanations for the lives it claims or the dreams it shatters. With the relentless march of wind and time, even the most epic struggles against its power are erased, leaving no trace of the battles fought or the tears shed upon its sands. And so, the guards continue their eternal march forward, their spirits as weathered as the rocks that punctuate the barren landscape. They bear not only the physical burden of their cargo, but also the invisible weight of all that has been lost along the way. Each step is a testament to their resilience, each mile covered a victory against the odds that constantly stack against them. In their eyes, one can see the reflection of countless sunrises witnessed, the memory of oases that shimmered like mirages before materializing into blessed reality. Their calloused hands tell stories of ropes gripped tightly in sandstorms, of weapons wielded against those who would prey upon their charges. Every scar on their sun-baked skin is a map of their journey, a record of the desert's attempts to claim them. As night descends upon the caravan, the guards gather around small fires, their vigilance never wavering even in the relative safety of their camp. They share meager rations and precious water, each sip and morsel a reminder of the precarious balance between life and death in this unforgiving realm. Stories are exchanged in hushed tones, tales of narrow escapes and tragic losses. Each narrative a thread in the tapestry of their shared experience. Capcut prompt, caravan marching under the stars. Slow pace, guards weary but unbroken. The Milky Way stretching above as if watching silently under the vast canopy of stars. The caravan resumes its journey, a procession of shadows moving steadily across the moonlit sands. The pace is slow, deliberate, each step measured to conserve energy and maintain vigilance. The guards, though weary from their constant battle against the elements and unseen threats, remain unbroken. Their resolve is as firm as the ground beneath their feet, their commitment to their duty unwavering in the face of the desert's challenges. Above them, the Milky Way stretches across the night sky, a river of light that seems to watch their progress with silent indifference. The stars, eternal and unchanging, offer no comfort or guidance, merely bearing witness to the endless cycle of human endeavor and nature's supremacy. In this moment, suspended between the vastness of the heavens and the immensity of the desert, the true essence of the caravan guard's existence is laid bare. They are but small figures in an epic landscape, their struggles and triumphs mere footnotes in the grand narrative of the Sahara. Yet it is their unwavering spirit, their refusal to yield in the face of overwhelming odds, that gives meaning to their journey. The desert may claim its due, taking lives, possessions, and dreams with impartial cruelty. But it cannot take the indomitable will of those who choose to face its challenges, who continue to forge paths across its endless expanse, for in their persistence, in their ability to endure and adapt, the caravan guards embody the very essence of human resilience. As the night deepens and the stars wheel overhead, we pause with these weary travelers, forever judged, forever tested by the desert's hand. Their journey is a testament to the enduring spirit of those who dare to challenge the might of nature, who carry the weight of civilization's progress on their shoulders across the most inhospitable of terrains. In the silence of the desert night, broken only by the soft tread of camels and a whisper of wind over sand, we are reminded of the eternal dance between man and nature. The desert may be indifferent to our struggles, but it is through these very challenges that we define ourselves, finding strength and purpose in the face of adversity. And so, as the caravan disappears into the darkness, swallowed by the vastness of the Sahara, we are left to contemplate the courage of those who choose this life. They are the unsung heroes of trade and exploration, the guardians of ancient routes that connect distant lands and cultures. Their story is one of quiet heroism, of battles fought not just against bandits and beasts, but against the very elements themselves. In the end, it is not just goods and lives that these guards protect, but the very threads of human connection that span the harshest environments on Earth. Their journey continues, as it has for centuries, a testament to the unyielding human spirit in the face of nature's greatest challenges. The tale of the caravan guards in the Sahara reminds us of something far deeper than mere survival. It speaks to the very essence of human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. The desert, much like life itself, is an unforgiving teacher that does not yield to our desires or plans. It presents us with a paradoxical landscape where beauty and danger, opportunity and peril coexist in a delicate balance. Every guard who traversed that vast ocean of sand understood a fundamental truth. Their true strength lay not in conquering the desert, but in persevering through it. Their courage manifested in the quiet moments of vigilance when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm them. It showed in the selfless act of sharing the last precious drops of water with a fellow guard. It shone brightest when they gazed up at the star-studded sky, finding guidance and hope even in the darkest of nights. These men and women were not just protectors of goods and people, they were guardians of hope itself. With every step across the scorching sands, they carried the weight of dreams. The dreams of merchants seeking fortune, of pilgrims yearning for spiritual fulfillment, and of travelers longing for distant lands. Their journey was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a reminder that even in the harshest of environments, we can find the strength to push forward. As we conclude our journey through their world, we step back from the vast expanse of the Sahara and its hidden pathways. Yet, we carry with us a profound lesson. That true courage often resides in the quietest of moments. It lives in the patient endurance of hardship, in the unwavering faith that dawn will break even after the longest night, and in the silent determination to take one more step when all seems lost. The story of these guards serves as a powerful metaphor for our own lives. We may not face the physical dangers of the Sahara, but we all encounter our own deserts, periods of uncertainty, challenge, and adversity. Like the caravan guards, we too must find the strength to keep moving forward, to stand watch over our dreams and aspirations, and to share what little we have with those who journey alongside us. Their legacy teaches us that survival is not just about physical endurance, but also about maintaining our humanity in the face of overwhelming odds. It's about finding beauty in the barren landscapes of our lives, about cherishing the oases of kindness and companionship we encounter along the way, and about never losing sight of the stars that guide us home. As the firelight under our baobab tree begins to dim, we find ourselves returning from this epic journey. We've traversed the vast Sahara in our minds, felt the scorching heat on our skin, and tasted the grit of sand in our mouths. But more importantly, we've touched the very essence of human resilience and courage. Let this story be a reminder that in our own lives, we too can find the strength to be caravan guards. We can choose to stand watch over our dreams, to share our last drop of hope with those in need, and to lift our eyes to the stars when the path ahead seems dark and uncertain. And so, as we conclude our tale, let your breathing slow and your mind settle. Allow your body to relax, like a weary traveler finally unburdening themselves after a long and arduous journey. Feel the cool night air embrace you, offering respite and renewal. The night now holds you safely in its embrace, cradling you under the vast canopy of stars. As you close your eyes, imagine the gentle rustling of the baobab leaves above, whispering ancient secrets of survival and triumph. You are now under baobab skies, forever changed by the courage and resilience of those who dared to cross the Great Sahara. May their spirit guide you through the deserts of your own life, always reminding you that even in the harshest of conditions, hope and humanity can flourish.